Hey, it's Marvin McKenzie, and wanted to take a few minutes and just share some things about complaints. Years ago, as a pastor, actually, I was pastoring a church in Astoria, Oregon, and Astoria is a town of about 10,000 people, something like that, and it was a very pleasant place to live. I was there for 10 years or 13 years. I'm sorry, 13 years, and a very very pleasant place to live. We enjoyed Astoria a lot, but it's like any town. There's things about it you could say were negative. And in fact, when we moved to Astoria, I moved to Astoria from Colorado. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, but I had only lived up there, and I had only lived in trying to figure out how to make this little thing here work. There we go. Maybe that works. So. Yeah, I'm from the Northwest. I was born in Tacoma. I lived most of my life around Kennewick, Pasco, and Richland area. Went to Bible college in Colorado, though. I went to Bible college in Colorado, and I had never been to the city of Astoria, Oregon. And so when I was first approached about the possibility of maybe going to Astoria to start a church there, I didn't really know what I was getting into. And so I was talking to a preacher from Colorado, and I said, I've never been to Astoria, but all I can picture is that stinky ocean smell and trees that only have leaves on one side because the wind blows all the time. And what it turned out when I got to Astoria, I absolutely loved the place. The ocean, the river, the mountains all around. There were deer, there were elk, there was fishing. And the people were very pleasant. It rained an awful lot. It's a rainforest around there, and the last year we were there, 120 inches of rain in 1 year. And so there were a lot of negative things about it. And the politics, sometimes people would have problems with the politics. And so we had a family start attending our church, and one day during the services, I made mention of the Daily Astorian, the paper there, and I made mention of it in a positive light, something positive about the paper. And this family that had begun attending our church got kind of all upset with me. And, they were, how can you say that? Oh, their political views are wrong and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. And, so they just wanted to complain. They just wanted to complain. And yeah, I knew there were some negative things. I could see some things that I wouldn't agree with on everything. And yet I don't see a terribly good reason to spend all of my time complaining about things. So right now I'm in this situation here. I'm just here in Puyallup area, and I've lived in Puyallup now about 16 years. And we're right in the middle of the Washington State Fair. Most of the natives around here call it the Puyallup Fair. And it's a Washington State Fair, very large fair, very nice fair. Many, many years. It's been going on since the history of the town. And it's kind of the focal point of Puyallup. You look at when you go to Puyallup, the thing you see is the fairgrounds. It's the major focal point of the entire city. But right now, a lot of the natives, a lot of the locals, the people that have lived here all of their life, they're talking about it, and that they're not, they're finding reasons to complain about the fair. And so I just, the other day, I just said some nice things about the fair, made a scope about it, and just, my observations about the fair. And I didn't say anything. I mean, I don't think I was dishonest in anything. I just, this is what I saw. And I see that the fair this year doesn't have quite as many people at it as it did last year. And I'm enjoying the vendors and at the Fairplex and all that. I'm just talking about things like that, and the comments that I've received on Facebook from where I posted that on Facebook, just my observations, have been almost entirely negative, complaining. People complaining about everything, and complaining about changes. They're complaining that at one time, there were a lot of vendors that were outside the fair, so you could actually go to a fair without going into the fair. You could go to all these different displays and vendors that were outside of the fair, and you didn't even have to pay to go into the fair, and now they're not allowing that anymore. And then someone complained about the fact that they said that the fair is being a bully and not letting the neighbors in, and trying to not allow the neighbors to let people park on their property and those kinds of things, and just complaining. And implying that since I'm only a 16-year resident of the area, that I just don't really know what's going on, and I'm not really qualified to make observations and judgments and those things. And so I just here was my question: what is it that you personally are complaining about right now? What's going on in your life? What's just something you like to complain about? Something that bugs you and you just want to complain about it. And, it's, and I just want to give you a piece of friendly advice. Whatever it is that you have to complain about, whether it's a legitimate complaint or whatever, if it's a family, a work thing, if it's a health thing, if whatever it is, if it's a neighbor thing or whatever, can I just make this suggestion? Whatever it is you have to complain about, don't. Just don't. Just don't complain. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't times when it's reasonable to make some positive critiques. One of the ways you'll know whether what you want to do is complain or whether you want to critique is if you have the ability to affect change. If you have the ability to turn something that you observe as being negative, if you have a way to change that, if you have influence or power or authority to change it, well, then you may be in the realm of critiquing and not complaining. But if all you're doing is just expressing your opinion that you don't like something and you don't like this or you don't like that, if all you're doing is expressing your opinion and there's no way for you to make any changes on the thing, let me just say, just don't complain. Just don't. And there's a handful of reasons why it'd be better for you not to complain. Some good reasons. First of all, complaining is unpleasant to the people that are around you. You know what? If you get in a crowd of complainers, they don't want to hear your complaints. They want to complain. They want you to hear theirs. Complaining is unpleasant. It just is. It's just unpleasant. And it's the people who are around you are not going to enjoy your complaining. And so just don't do it. It's just going to be unpleasant. It's going to make the atmosphere and the environment in which you are, it's just going to make it unpleasant. And so just don't do it. A second thing about it is complaining is it's kind of unhealthy for you. Complaining, and I know this isn't true in every case, but some complaining can cause high blood pressure and, depression and all sorts of things. And you just don't complain. It's not good for you. It's not a healthy thing for you to do. It's not good for people around you. It's not good for yourself. It's going to cause you to have issues of anxiety sometimes, issues of depression and those things. I was with a friend not long ago, and I guess it's been a couple of years, and yeah, he's been going through some anxiety issues and some troubles with anxiety, and so I was at his house visiting, and he was explaining it to me, and he said, yeah, it's just the strangest thing. Something will kind of upset me or get me going, and all of a sudden, my chest will get all tight, and it feels like I'm having a heart attack. He said, for instance, this thing on the news right now, and I think they were talking about some kind of gun control legislation. He says, and that thing right there, and that's just one of those kind of things that if I thought about it a little bit, it would probably upset me, and then I could get anxiety. In fact, it is upsetting me, and I am getting anxiety. and he called for his wife, give me my medicine, just talking to me about what it is that would make him anxious, made him anxious. Just don't complain. Just don't complain. Just don't do it. Complaining can cause an awful lot of damage, depending upon the circumstances. And while you may not feel like you may not be in a position of influence, an official position of influence. If you're a complainer and you choose to complain openly, what'll happen is you'll gather around you a group of complainers. You're not the only person who wants to complain. It's in the nature of us all to find the bad in things and try to pull it to the surface. And And so what'll happen, it could happen if you're complaining and you complain openly, is that you'll gather to yourself together a crowd and you'll do damage. You won't do good, you'll do damage by your complaining. You'll gather together a group of people who can hurt the cause. And it may be a cause that you believe in. There's just one or two things about that cause you don't care for, and you start complaining about it, and you cause damage. And then complaining, again, it never can do good. Complaining will never do good. Now, again, there is such a thing as critiquing, and there is, when you're in a position of authority, you're in a position of power where you have the power to cause some change and to create change, impact change. Well, yeah, you might be able to accomplish something then. But the fact is, most of the time, if you're just you don't have a position of authority, you're complaining. It has the potential to do damage. It has no potential to do good, none. It might be that someone who's in authority is wise enough that instead of reacting to your complaining, they take the time to listen to your complaint and evaluate it and put something together with it. There might be, but the fact is, most of the time, it's just not going to do any good. And so, it's just what I like to share with you today is if you're in a complaining mood, just don't. If you've got something to complain about, just don't do it. Would you please? I'm Marvin McKenzie, and I want to encourage you to check out our online shopping portal called doobly.com and /M04 V B. And it is a fundraising program. It is a great way for you to save a huge amount of money on your shopping and when buying the things you'd normally buy, but it is also a means for a fundraiser for the teen department in the Christian school that I am involved in at the church that I pastor. And so you can check it out again, www.doobly.com /M, that's capital M, 04 V B.